In the second hearing into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, the House Select Committee made the case that Donald Trump had an inner circle of advisors telling him the truth, that the election was not stolen, but then he chose to believe another team of advisors led by, as the committee put it, an inebriated Rudy Giuliani, who urged the former president to declare victory prematurely on election night. The other stunner that came out of yesterday's hearing, what the committee called the big ripoff. The former president raised $250 million off the big lie for a so-called election defense fund that investigators say never existed. The committee accused Trump of preying on his supporters.
Really,
that's his MO.
Yeah, there's so much to get to here. Once again, the January 6th committee did not disappoint. And I've got to say, the fact that you have one Trumper after another Trumper after another Trumper after another Trumper, people who've invested their professional lives in a guy who they know is damaging their reputation, perhaps permanently, but they're still in there with him. They're the ones who are testifying. There are no liberal Democrats here testifying about all the terrible things Donald Trump's done. These are people closest to him. These are people that he hired. These are people that he trusted. These are people who were with him to the very end. They're the ones saying time and time again in testimony that Donald Trump knew that all of these bogus arguments were lies. He was told it day in and day out, and that he continued to move forward with a lie, despite the fact he knew that these conspiracy theories didn't hold any water.
And that's what jumped out to me, Joe, again, to your point for a second day, is the unequivocal nature of the testimony from President Trump's own advisors. I think I expected more hemming and hawing and maybe a half-hearted defense of President Trump. But perhaps to save their own hides, they sat down and told this committee everything, saying, we told him this election was clean. We told him it was not rigged. We told him it wasn't stolen. He stands alone with Rudy Giuliani and a couple of other crackpots. And the other piece that jumped out at me, Claire McCaskill, was if you're a Trump supporter watching that hearing yesterday, maybe you weren't, but maybe you heard about it, and you know that Donald Trump knew that this whole thing was a scam, that it was a lie. And first he sent you to the Capitol, and now you're getting arrested, some of you, and going to prison. And then he took $250 million of your money and put it in his pocket based on something he knew was a scam. Don't you feel duped at this point, that you either went to prison or gave up a bunch of your money for a lie?
Well, the problem is, to feel duped, you have to have some self-blame that you were stupid enough to go along with this nut. And I don't think that that kind of reflection comes easily for folks. You know, it is fascinating to me. There's a couple of things about this that really struck me. The first is, can you imagine how different history would have been, how lives would have been saved, how we wouldn't have this really inflection point in our democracy if all of those Trump people who we heard on tape yesterday, if in December of 2020, they would have come together and issued a joint statement, you know, whether all of them. But instead, you know, I can't do a ticker tape parade for these guys, because just because they've been truthful at this point, they allowed this to go on. The Republicans on Capitol Hill allowed this to go on, and they didn't stand up when they should have. And it is really a lesson for the history books that these people were so afraid of the consequences of saying the emperor wears no clothes that they hid under their desks, and look what happened. Here we find ourselves with a huge chunk of the country believing a complete fraud around whether or not our elections are counted right.
Well, and you have, especially in that case,
even after they left,
Bill Barr. Even after he left, he leaves.
Come on.
He gives this positive statement when he's leaving. And then I believe when he's asked in March about Trump, he said he'd vote for him again. I appreciate the opportunity to update you this afternoon. He wrote in his resignation department a review of the voter fraud allegations and how these elections will continue to be pursued. He knew it was a lie. He said it was, quote, bullshit.
Wow.
And yet he puts in departure a note about how we're going to continue pursuing these allegations that Barr says repeatedly he knows is a lie, and then says later he'd vote for him again. That's just unpatriotic. I mean, I don't want to get too melodramatic. I think it's sick, and there's just no excuse. Especially, it's always sick. But the way that people in Washington think, that go, "Oh, I've got to protect my career," don't really understand you protecting your career more than, protecting the flag, protecting the Constitution. But Barr's career's over. He was at the end of the career. He sullied his reputation to go back and work for Trump. And when he figured out that Trump was crazy, his words, out of his mind, detached from reality, he still was sucking up to him even at the end. What was it worth for you, Bill? Just what was it worth? I don't get it.